How true it is in the statement when it comes to our personal life and homes. Do we follow what Paul was saying in Romans? I guess this is a continuation of Mother Elena's sermon last week. The song she recited I grew up with, They Will Know We Are Christians by Our Love. It was a favorite in the church. You may be shocked to hear that not everyone likes me. I find that hard to believe, but it's true. I'm a big boy. I had to come to this realization, even if it hurts, and sometimes it does hurt. I just don't show it in public very often. The circumstances under which I moved to Leesville is one reason. It is not that I find they find me offensive, but what I stand for and whose place I took. There are individuals who still hold a grudge because of something that happened that was out of my control or anyone's control. Then there are those who don't want things to change. It may be hard to imagine, but believe me when I say, I do not like change. Change is hard to deal with, but I accept change in my life because the only constant in our lives is change. We all change. We all grow older. New items come into into our lives, into devices, and our new music, new views of things. We were just talking about that. Ashton brought up DS, and Scott said, I'll take the DS, and I had no idea what DS was. So a gaming device, had no idea. And I don't know about you, but as I get older, it is harder to roll with the punches. I find myself digging in for dear life. And I will admit not all things are good. I believe that texting and IMing have really impacted our communication skills. Autocorrect has affected our spelling and grammar usage, even though I will admit that doing footnotes in academic papers is much easier now for me than using a typewriter. Those of us who used to use typewriters and had to leave that little space for footnotes, you never left enough space for a footnote, and you would be retyping things. And then there are individuals who just hate us because of being Christian. And those are Christians who hate us because we're Episcopalian. And Episcopalians who don't like us because of some of our beliefs. It goes on and on and on. And this is what Paul was telling the people. Because, believe it or not, this is not a new thing. If you do not know, the Christians were seen as a sect of Judaism back in those days by the Romans and by some of the Jews, and then some of the Jews, they were seen as heretics, but it was a sect of Judaism. So the word Christian was kind of a mocking word. It was meant to actually to belittle people. They were trying to be something of someone else. That's what it meant. They were being Christ-like, they are Jesus-like, and it was really a demeaning term. But they took it on, and we took it on for ourselves. Then we got involved, the Gentiles. The one common element that Jewish people held, if they were believers in Jesus or not, it was that the Messiah was strictly for the Jewish people and not for the Gentiles. Did you realize that? We were not an afterthought by God, but we were seen as intruders by some, if not most of the Jewish people. The apostles themselves quarreled if the Gentiles were among the chosen to receive Jesus' message. We were unwanted by many of the believers, and there are many sects of Christianity that still cling to the Levitical law as the way to true salvation when Jesus himself says that he is the only way. See, this is not a new argument. This is an ongoing battle from the beginning of the Christian movement. And let me fill you in on Paul. Paul, if you remember, was named Saul. Saul, by the way, means prayed for in Hebrew. Interesting name if you looked at his history. Paul, which God named him, means little in Hebrew. Wow, what a change. Could you imagine where names meant a great deal to a person's character, that they would be called little? If Paul embraced his new name. Before he became Paul, Saul persecuted Christians. His whole life was centered on wiping out this sect. What he saw was heresy to his faith. We first meet him in the book of Acts, where he was guarding the cloaks of the individuals who were stoning Stephen the first known martyr of the faith. He was a Roman citizen, by the way, which cost his father greatly and probably made him not too popular in many of the Jewish eyes, which is probably why he was so fervent about crushing out Christianity. This was a way of gaining back his person. He took on that mission greatly, but God had a different idea for him. Paul became one of the most beloved apostles and one of the greatest preachers in faith. And he died a martyr and greatly respected. Not so bad for a guy named Little. And that was what the passage in Romans was all about. It's not about becoming a great and respected person. It is that the last shall be first. When you serve your fellow human, that is when we are doing what is right. Even when it is not popular, then you are following Jesus. In other words, you fulfill the gospel message that Christ talked about in today's lesson. Take up your cross and follow me. The first part of the passage is not hard to fulfill for most people. Hate what is evil. Hold on to what is good. Love one another, not bad. But the second is where we get stuck. It's where I get stuck. Paul tells us to bless those who curse you, to associate with the lowly, and don't seek vengeance. Now, I don't know about you, there are some people I'd rather shoot than deal with. I tell people that all the time. It is just the way it is. It is part of our life. You're not going to get through to them. They're not listening. And in their eyes, you are wrong. That is it. And they really don't like you. You can't change that. You just have to pray for that. Now, does prayer change them? Probably not. Changes you. Changes the way you see them, the way you experience them. Because when you run into people like that who hate everything about life, and you're a part of it, there's something behind there. And through prayer, you begin to see what's going on. And you may not be able to deal with it, but it makes it a lot more, it makes it a lot more dealable for you. And hopefully you can get through to them. It's hard to forgive and love someone who speaks against you, but harder to love someone who you thought was your friend. That happens. That hurts the worst. Yet, that is what Christ, through Paul, was telling us to do. How do we do this? Last week, I was passing by a co-worker's office who had their door open. And as they were on the phone, and they put up their hand to stop me, so I waited. When they finished, I could see the frustration on their face. I asked what was going on. The response was witty and priceless because I knew exactly what they meant. And I use this line often. They looked at me and said, I was just piling coals. Paul had a sense of humor, but I repeat that line every day. Be kind to your enemies, therefore heap heaping coals upon their head. Now, in a way, that's bad, if you think about it. It really is. Because why are we being kind? Because you know, it's ticking them off. Just the way Paul's dealing with it and the way us dealing with it. The one gift that God gave me is the ability to look beyond the person. It really has. What I mean is to look beyond the hate and the sorrow, to see the real child behind the adult. The real reason behind what is going on. There has only been twice that the only thing I saw was blackness within them, within these two people. And that scared me more than you know. People build walls of hate because they have been hurt. It is a defense mechanism. They do not want people to see who they really are, and most of the time, they are so hurt and broken, it is not funny. Paul knew this. We respond with hate to hate, then healing will never begin. Unless we respond to individuals with love and forgiveness They will never know the true love of God, and we will never know the joy and freedom of true love freely given. So I leave you with Paul's words. Let love be genuine. Hate what is evil. Hold fast to what is good. Love one another with mutual affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Do not lag in zeal. Be ardent in spirit. Serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in suffering. Persevere in prayer. Contribute to the needs of the saints. Extend hospitality to the strangers. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse them. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty. Be associated with the lowly. Do not claim to be wiser than you are. Do not repay anyone evil for evil, but take thought for what is noble in the sight of all. If it is possible, so far as it depends on you, live peacefully with all. Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave room for the wrath of God. For it is written, vengeance is mine. I will repay, says the Lord. No, if your enemies are hungry, feed them. If they are thirsty, give them something to drink. For by doing this, you will heaping coals on their heads. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good.